Hey guys, Fortune Heroes for Team Mistblade here with my friend and colleague and host of this segment, Gun Monkey.
What's up, guys?
Anyways, so here we go. I'm gonna let Monkey here explain it and then I'll chip in my thoughts.
Okay, guys. What we got here is a basic style of awards. We're gonna have a couple of categories. We're gonna have best spell, best trap, best monster, best deck, best consistency deck, most potential deck, and then the dark horse of the format. So we're gonna get this started with the spells of the format, and me and Fortune both agree it's Soul Charge.
Yeah, no, Soul Charge is just one of those cards that lets an opponent regain advantage for a cost of 5,000 life points and giving up their battle phase. Now, that battle phase usually like scares people because it's like what do well, you're losing your battle phase, right? I mean, you're not going to be able to, but there are so many exceeds and synchro monsters in the game that just change that sort of mentality now. It's like it's okay for them to lose the advantage because they eventually just get it back and then they wreck your field and then you're not going to be able to come back against them. That's basically what Soul Charge is, and it's one of those cards you really don't want to see in a duel.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, the perfect example is like I play Sylvan, so if I drop a Soul Charge and I have two Hem Trees on field and get two Hem Trees to the field, mill two, maybe get a Sylvan, draw one, and then I can go into Giant Grinder, and if they have a special summon to Exceed, then I get to burn them, so I don't need my battle phase. I still made them go minus, and I got a plus, and I have an Exceed on board. So Soul Charge is immensely powerful, and I can see it getting hit, but not banned.
Yeah, but that's all my thoughts on Soul Charge as a card.
So that's why we gave Soul Charge best spell of the format. Now on to best traps. Uh, we have three, but we figure the best trap of the format is obviously Wiretap. It's too powerful at what it does.
Yeah, Wiretap is one of those cards where if you don't really have a good answer to it, like seven tools, or you didn't trap stun at the beginning of the turn, but let's face it, even if you did, uh, Wiretap would have thrown that back to the deck, and it's like good luck. But Wiretap just stops protection, and the the basis behind the Wiretap is that hats really love this card, especially because hats themselves eventually just, make it hard for you to play against. Wiretap just adds an extra like factor to it. So now you have to think, okay, I get I have three traps on the field and I get two of those maybe. So that's Wiretap in a nutshell to me.
Yeah, I mean Wiretap's just one of those things where because it's a counter trap, they can't chain another protection card to it unless it's a counter trap. So Wiretap is just powerful because it's counter trap. If it wasn't, I mean, it would have to obviously be a counter to counter something, but it's just got so much power because of that, like Seven Tools, and that's why Seven Tools is no longer being played. It does what Seven Tools does, but better.
Yeah.
And then for honorable,
So
oh, go ahead, my friend.
so then the honorable mentions we can talk about for both magics and traps and cards that failed to make an impression on us. And in my opinion, the reason why they failed is because, Soul Charge and Wiretap are great, but a good honorable mention about the magic cards would be both Madolche cards. We were originally going to just go with Ticket, but let's face it, one one Chateau and one Ticket is all that deck needs to get going. One Chateau is definitely all it needs to, re secure enough advantage to continue on because it's like that's on the field. You kill their Madolches, they can go back to the hand.
And then they search if they have tickets. So it's like, it's they never go minus.
Yeah, and then I guess that's the other two honorable mentions on the three. Good. The honorable mentions about the traps would be Artifact Sanctum because artifacts just really rack it up. Sanctum is an special is like it's like a what's the best card? It's not a Call of Haunted because Call of Haunted brings from the graveyard, but it's a good card and special summon from the deck. Any uh any artifact, then they get their effect when they're special summoned, and if it's destroyed face down, your opponent loses the battle phase. So it's like you can't blind MST that deck even if you wanted to because there's just too much on that. And Sanctum really does hurt if you don't have a battle phase.
Watch,
So I
you
mean,
got them switched around. Sanctum is if it gets destroyed face down, it pops a card, and Artifact Ignition, which is the MST, if it's destroyed face down, you could lose your battle phase.
I thought it was Sanctum. Oh well. So then that rant was completely pointless, and that's one of the honorable mentions. The second one, I think, and something that people have been somewhat overlooking is Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. And you may be thinking, oh, that's just like a cheap one to think about. But a lot of decks still use it. Mythic Rulers is still a deck until the format change, and it still is like not even a hurtful card to have, especially in decks where it's like we want our cards in the graveyard because they work well. So
Yeah, I completely agree. Now let's move on to our next thing. For best monsters, we couldn't just give it to one of these. We had to give it to both of them, and then that's the hands, the fire and ice hands.
yeah, my opinion on those things is that they suck badly. Not gonna lie, they feel unhealthy to the game, like Soul Charge is unhealthy to the game. Uh, it's an automatic +1 on your opponent always, especially even if they try to play around it. It's like you're gonna get the really stupid people that try to like play around it and then they make one mistake, or you're gonna get a smart person who understands that this is a car. These cards just wreck field, and especially if it's a fire hand, you really don't want to run into those because when you're attacking a face down card and it ends up being a fire hand, that's your monster loss, and then you now you're stuck with a empty field. They have an ice hand on field, and what are you gonna do from there? It's it's very splashable in a lot of decks, and is splashed in every deck, and I just feel it's very unhealthy.
Yeah. Like, the reason so many different types of decks are topping is because of the hands. If you look at every single deck, they have a form of hand in there. They might play with 2, or they might play the 3, but it's too easily splashed, and it's the most, I would say, the most easily most broken card of the format, most played, and most abused card.
Yeah.
And then we're going into the best, well, not the best, sorry, the dark horse of the format, and we gave that to Infernities.
Yeah, Infernities is one of those decks where you just think about it and you're looking and you're seeing how does this deck top. I've seen a couple Infernities that have topped over the course of the last couple months, and this is weird looking at it and seeing that this deck's topping and it doesn't need triple Infernity Barrier, but it's weird. And the only reason that Yugioh couldn't beat out this card is because I mean Yugioh tops more often than that, so you can't just you can't award it to a deck that tops more times than not. I mean, it's the dark horse, right? Infernities just has a weird thing about it where you're seeing it happen, so that's why Infernities won dark horse.
Now for our most potential that we think is Sylvan's.
Yeah, so me and Gunn play Sylvans. We're big Sylvan fans. We loved how the deck gave you more of a thinking process to it, aside from other decks where it's just like cards play themselves. This one, it all comes down to how you stack your deck, and that doesn't sound right when it comes to tournaments. Now it's like stacking cheating, but this is legal stacking in a deck that allows you to manipulate what you can do, because there's certain times where it's like, okay, I got a handful of like, I have a maybe a peacekeeper, sylvan charity, two martial leaves, and a comb mushroom, and I just drew like a sage koya. All I need to do now is just use that charity to stack up a couple cards, and if I'm going second on you, I'm going to stack up maybe I'm gonna stack up that martial leaf and that comb mushroom, because you've already set up your board. I'm gonna go after that, and then if I'm going first, I'm gonna do the sage koya and I'm not sure which one of those. I'm probably the peacekeeper if anything. But anyways, enough about me ranting about the deck. Basically, it's just a really good like deck where you need to now think about what you're doing to gain the advantage on your opponent. Sure, it does pull out some very broken combos, but it's more often than not you're going to get in that situation where you're thinking more often than your opponent, where hats is like, okay, let me set my fire or let me set my artifacts.
Yeah, and that's why I like Sylvans. They, if you ever play Sylvans, it's very thought based. Like you see a lot of Sylvan players. I'm not gonna claim to be a good Sylvan player because I am definitely not, because I still have a lot to learn about the deck. But if you ever see a Sylvan player that's really good, what he can do with the deck is very amazing. Like when I see a board, I'm like, wow, I made this board. No, some people make like these huge boards, like they abuse the level 7, bounce their all their stuff, and reuse their miracle fertilizers, and just they make incredible fields that like when your opponent looks at them, they're just like handshake, scoop. So, I mean, if you can think on and play this deck very well, it's a very good deck. But you just have to worry about the dead hands, and that's why like the most broken card in the deck is Charity, but it's also the most needed card because the deck has so many problems sometimes with the hands. And I don't mean like the
Mm.
fire and ice hands. I mean like literally your starting and opening hands. Like you could draw triple sage Koya and a hem tree, and like there's a lot of big monsters you don't want to see. But we give most potential to Sylvans. Now, for most consistent, we gave it to Madolches.
Um, how do I put this? The old Chase is one of those decks where I loved it, now I hate it. Why? One card, Angeli. Angeli is a very powerful card, not gonna lie to you. And some people say, oh, it's the hoot cake that makes the deck better. And I tend to agree with you, yeah. Hoot cake plus Angeli. If hoot cake was just alone though, hoot cake isn't too good. And jelly is what makes hoot cake better. And jelly is what sets up the next play. And jelly is what most Dolce players would tend to use more often than not than the hoot cake. The hoot cake, I mean, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. This deck can really set up its hand to the point where it's like, okay, you've destroyed my board. Now allow me to go back and refill that board and get rid of your board. Oh, and you want to come back? Let me just set some cards. The Dual Chase is a good deck. Very consistent at doing what it loves to do, which is fix the board, fix the problem. And that's what the Dual Chase is prided on, is fixing problems. Tiramisu just makes it much easier for that deck to keep playing. Ticket and Chateau in combo, just like I said in the honorable mentions, Ticket and Chateau are a necessary and dependable way of being able to set up your hand and field to the point where, okay, you want to now play Yu-Gi-Oh, that's fine. I will now wreck your field, and now you can't play. So good luck. That is Madolches in a nutshell, and that's why it's so consistent, and it's consistent at doing it, and it is consistent at topping. So I mean, there's no big argument on that.
Yeah. Now, I'm a hypocrite when I say I hate this deck because Angeli is literally the equivalent to Lonefire, except Lonefire can like go into Lonefire and then get a big monster, while Angeli just tributes and can only use its effect once per turn. But it's the fact that Madolches aren't supposed to do anything by themselves. They require other Madolches to do stuff like, except for Magdalene. Magdalene just searches, but she doesn't do anything significant for the deck other than searching. Hootcake banishes from the grave to special. Messenger Lotto requires to special someone with a beast on field to get its effect. Angeli sends herself to graveyard to get a monster from the deck, which, in conjunction with Hootcake, lets you banish that monster to get a search. And special summon that monster, and then you get another search, which is just too powerful for a one-turn play. Like, I feel there should be a much bigger stipulation on this card. Like, the part it brings out, its effects negated, or something like that. I don't. Maybe I'm just being a little too harsh, but I don't know. It is the most consistent deck, and I hope to see at least something hit in the deck soon.
I'm cool with it not getting hit, but at the same time, I want more of the. If anything, traps got to get hit because it's a trap heavy deck. If you hit some of the traps, the deck comes a little bit lower down on the tier list. But right now, it's at the top, consistent as hell, and that's why it won consistency, right?
Yep. And now we're on to our last deck, and what we think is the best deck of the format.
MVP goes to hats. Sorry to be anticlimactic about it, but that's just the truth. You look at some things, and this may be my generalization to the idea of a hat deck, which is hands, artifacts, and trap tricks. But hat to me is just any deck that runs some artifacts, any deck that runs some hands, or any deck that can run the trap tricks, or can do all three, or can do a combo of two. I don't care. Hat is that sort of idea to me because it's just three different types of cards: artifacts, an archetype; hands, an archetype; trap tricks, an archetype, all stacked together. And you know that may be a good thing because you think people are now thinking outside the box more often than not. I mean, let's face it, we haven't had a good original deck since Teledad. I don't like the fact, and you may argue that we've had a bunch of archetypes, but that's just it. We've had a bunch of archetypes. We haven't had a bunch of like cookie cutter decks put together. Hands, artifacts, trap tricks, hats, whatever you want to call them. They are consistently topping in any shape or form. They have a great like first turn setup. They have a great second turn setup, and then they have the ability to clear field, which is what I've explained with the hands and the artifacts and whatever. This deck is just very powerful, and being the MVP, in my opinion, there has to be stuff that needs to get hit in this deck.
I completely agree. But it has to be the unhealthy cards, which I feel are the hands. The hands need to be cut.
Yeah.
When Reborn Tengu, excuse my language, Reborn Tengu got hit, it was because it was too good in plants. You could make one synchro, Reborn Tengu would go to grave, bring it out, you would synchro again, you get two synchros off the Reborn Tengu, and then another one would come out, and you would do some silly play, and you would just get a bunch of synchros or have three monsters on board because of the one Reborn Tango and the Spore. But with hands, it's a bad. It doesn't let you play Yugioh. It doesn't let you attack for fear that your monster's gonna get popped. It also doesn't let you just sit there and play passively because they will just crash the hands. The hands are extremely unhealthy because they don't have any stipulation on them, except for the fact that you're gonna lose some life points if you ram them. They don't have a once per turn effect or anything like that. All they require is that a card is able to be popped on field and that they're destroyed.
Yes. And that's why hands and hats in general just end up becoming the MVP. And I have a great dislike for this deck. However, I do see why it's very good.
Yeah, I mean it is good, but I would never say it's an innovative deck. I see it as being a deck that's just, I'm not gonna let you play Yu-Gi-Oh. Have fun.
Well, that's technically how Teledad was at one point.
I know, but this is extremely not. At
I,
least,
I, I guess coming from a person that hasn't played in the Teledad format, both of us being in that case, we don't know how to react to the deck. However, I would like to say that yes, I agree that it's more innovative than most of the archetype decks today.
but that's because Konami's too scared to make anything other than Arch set decks anymore because they're scared of what happened in the past.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, that is our award show. Sorry that it kind of sounded sort of anticlimactic, or it didn't really build up the hype to it. We did have another video, but it kind of ended up not working. So we're just pretty much, doing a short like recap of what we actually did. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Next time, we promise to bring you an even better award show for the next format, which, is going to be in a very short time, according to some people. But, till then, this has been not just for fun, that's another thing. This has been Fortune Heroes.
And Gun Monkey.
Signing out. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys next time. Till then, take care.
And please pay attention to the channel because there will be more content coming. So later, guys. Peace.